Are you an Armageddon or an Armageddon? It's not my strongest. Hello everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Sprue review video. Yes, we are back with the big one of the year. It is the summer release, it's the summer blockbuster. It is, of course, Armageddon. Yes, Games Workshop have been very kind and they have sent me the new Armageddon box to build up, paint and sprue review for all of you. And, well, this has been a journey. A little bit of background for all of you. As many of you will know, Age of Sigmar is the game that I prefer these days, or it has been for a little while. It's had the crown of the king of all games that Games Workshop makes, for me, personally. That's my own personal preference. And 40k is something that I do adore it. I have done for a long time. I love playing the game. I love the models. I love the background. I love the lore, all of that. I love all of that stuff. But Age of Sigmar has been in front for me for a while, because I haven't enjoyed playing Warhammer 40,000 as much as I did during sort of the peak for me, which was probably around sort of the end of 8th and just about at the beginning of 9th. That was when I was at my most in love with it, I should say. So this video is going to be really interesting, because this is 11th edition. It's coming off of the back of 10th edition, which, having played one tournament, I have at least a little bit of context to confirm that I didn't really like 10th edition as a whole, basically. And there's a whole myriad of other reasons around to be involved in that, and there's lots and lots of things I could say about it that frankly would lose the purpose of what this video is about. So we're going to just remove all of that for now. Another thing I will say is that over the last couple of weeks, I've had food poisoning, there's been a heat wave, and I'm in the midst of a horrible, horrible hay fever moment. So my mood is not great, I will say that. So all of that is context that I need to just put in right now, because this box is really difficult for me to review, because I don't think putting my personal hobbyist hat on, that this is the box that is intended for me, as it were. But I know that a lot of people are really excited for it, because it is a box that's really intended for you. The main headline here, of course, being that this is the 10.5. This is the building up, this is the improvement, this is the tweaking, this is the streamlining of the 10th edition rule set. And whilst I haven't played any games of 11th, I can't really comment on whether the rule set is any better, because my expertise in such things, having only played one tournament, is not high. So I can't sort of sit here and say, they've made the rules better, or they've made the rules worse. I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy to be talking about that. I think they've probably made it better from what I've read. That's what I will say. But I can't speak with any authority on that. There are much better channels that are more suited to talking about that sort of thing. So I've limited the scope of this video very much, as we usually do, to talking about the sprues. I have been a collector for a very, 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 very long time. Almost 30 years. Something like that. I've kind of forgotten at this point how long I've been around. And so ultimately, for me, the models don't feel like they're intended for me. So the kind of person to review this box is somebody who does not have Space Marines and does not have an Orc army already. Now, I don't have an Orc army already. I did have one between the ages of 6 and 14. And that's kind of the point. There's a lot of what's in here I had between the ages of 6 and 14. And I am now approaching my 36th birthday. And Space Marines wise, it's the same deal here. You know, I've had many land speeders throughout my life. I've had I've got Vanguard veterans right now. I've had a bunch of intercessors. I've got more captains than I know to shake a stick at. I've got more librarians. I've got jump chaplains because I am a Blood Angels fan after all. I've got all of it, right? So ultimately, is this box aimed at me? No, I don't think it is, because I'm not somebody who plays the game a lot, and I already have all of the older versions of the models. So I don't think I'm the right audience for this. And I really wanted to get all of this out because that's the context with which I'm looking at this box. Is I'm trying to be somebody who is not who I am as the use case, to be positive about the box, because I know that for a lot of people out there it's really exciting because it's all the new rules for 10th edition, 11th edition, 40k. And I really want to enjoy playing 40k again. I really do. I want that more than anything right now in Warhammer. I just really want to enjoy playing 40k. And I hope that this box contains the possibility and the potential to do that. We shall see. So bearing all of that in mind, Armageddon, the new 11th edition launch box. Let's have an unboxing and let's do a sprue review. But before we do that, I will just ask you to please hit that like button, heed the subscribe button, and also comment below. I just said heed the subscribe button. You should heed it. Heed the subscribe button. Do what it's telling you to do, which is to subscribe. If it's telling you to unsubscribe, don't heed that. Ignore it. Just watch the rest of the video. Just ignore me for now. But like, comment, subscribe, do all of that good stuff. And now let's have a good long look at the Armageddon box and all of the models and sprues contained therein. Well, it's that time again. Yes. Warhammer 40,000 11th edition time. Here we go. We have Armageddon, the all-new 11th edition box. It's a big box, a big thick box, and so big and thick, in fact, it doesn't probably fit on the camera, so apologies about that. Let's flip it over. I'm sure you all know what's coming in this box, but we'll show you the back of the box anyway. There it is. And, well, what do you get inside? Well, we get 61 Citadel miniatures, a Space Marine captain with a relic shield, jump pack chaplain, a librarian, an ancient, 10 intercessors, 5 Vanguard veterans with jump packs, 3 eradicators with heavy bolter, and a land speeder. And for the orcs we get a war boss, a big boss, a banner knob, pain boy and grot orderly, weird boy, 20 boys, 10 Gretchen, war track, and a big mech Dakar rig. The other things we get inside this box are Operation Imperator, a separate hardback book containing the story and all that good stuff, the core rules, a chapter approved mission deck, the Dominatus campaign deck, 17 datasheet cards, which is you didn't actually get datasheet cards in Leviathan, which is interesting. Transfer sheet as well in here to add icons and symbols to your models, is what they say. And there you go, big old picture of everything contained within the box for you. So let's get this boy open. It's very heavy. Oh. So what do we think? The first thing we're going to see is, well, I would guess it's going to be a mass of plastic. Oh, would you look at that? Who just saw that coming? Nobody saw that coming. Alright, well, big old bag of bases. Everything in here is push fit, allegedly. So everything should just be so not no glue required, even though a lot of people do like to glue them, of course. So the weird boy is on a single sprue, by the looks of things. We then have the eradicators and the ancient and the jump chaplain all on one sprue as well, by the looks of things. Yeah, cool. Then we have the captain on his own sprue and the banner boy on his own sprue, or maybe that's not the banner boy, maybe that's the boss. Looks like the boss. We then have the war track on a single sprue. We have the banner boy and pain boy and grot orderly, there we go, on one sprue. We have the land speeder on its own sprue. The reason we're pointing this out is because this is important for things that will come out individually by the looks of things. We have the intercessors as well, they're all on one sprue. And then we have the librarian and... is it just the librarian? No, surely not. That's the librarian and the Vanguard veterans. Yes. All right. There we go. There we have a bit of free cardboard shaving. Lovely. We've got some Gretchens and some boys by the looks of things. And then we should have Gretchens and boys as well. The interesting thing is whether or not this is going to be a duplicate sprue. I think it is. Yes, duplicate sprue there of the orcs. But the intercessors was just that one sprue. So that's interesting. Alright, there's the big old kill rig. Dakar rig. Can't remember what it's called. And then inside the box we also have... It's dropping sprues everywhere. We have the 3 larger bases. Round base, oval base, and oval base. One will be for the land speeder, one will be for the kill rig, and the other one will be for the war track as well. Then we've got a large folio in the bottom here. Let's get that out. That's what all the weight is. And there is our Armageddon transfer sheet, including transfers for the Ultramarines, because of course, Blood Angels, Salamanders, Crimson Fists, White Scars, Goths, Evil Suns, Bad Moons. So it's all combined in one. I cannot extract that. Well, I don't really need to extract that. Let's just extract the box, though. There we go. Is the old folio. There it is. Hey, this is where all of our literature will be contained, I'm sure. Let's get that open. Oh, look at that. So, we have the Dominatus deck. That's the campaign deck. And, blimey, that's a thick deck. There we go. And the chapter approved as well. That is also a thick deck. They are about the same thickness, so lots of content there, I'm sure. Then we have Operation Imperator. There is our law book, and we have our instruction manual. It's a separate instruction manual, thank goodness. We have the core rules, and then that must be our data sheet cards. Yes, I think that's everything that's in the box. Yes, by the looks of things. Okay, let's get rid of you as well. Okie dokie. So, datasheet cards. We don't really need to look at these, but should have all the Space Marines and the Orcs in there. And here is our core rule book. It's just the core rules this time. There is no lore in this book. There's no kind of entry. There's none of that, which is interesting. It's a strange move, I think. Personally, makes it very convenient for playing the game. It doesn't make me feel very launched, as it were, because it's just the rule book. So it is what it is. I really like a big, thick, weighty rule book. But that's just me. I understand that it's not everybody. So that's cool. Then we have Operation Imperator, with all of the lore of this particular campaign contained within here. We have, let's just see if there's a contents page which will tell us. Yes, so we have a brief lowdown on Armageddon, on the Space Marines, the Orcish Hordes, Operation Imperator itself, Theatres of War, and the Dark Millennium in general. So yeah, the slight kind of like downside, I think, to separating this book out from the other thing is that we don't theoretically get quite as many like large cutout. Why does it feel like that is supposed to be a foldable page? I think it is. Yes. So we don't get as many like foldable. We don't get as many like large cutout pictures of lots and lots of models. So it doesn't feel like it's very showcasey of Warhammer 40,000 to my mind. Now that might be different as we read this, but when you have the core rule book and it's all together and you have all the story, but here we have lots of Space Marines pictures, which is fine because Space Marines are in the box. Lots and lots of Orc pictures, I'm sure. Yep. And then we get some really nice pictures like that. But this is going to pretty much be the extent of it. So it's very, very cool in terms of like really beefing up the story of this particular box, but it doesn't feel like it's pretty good at beefing up the story of Warhammer 40,000 in general. So it's like, it's a great celebration of Orcs and Space Marines so far. But is it a great celebration of 40k? I don't know. We're just going to see. What does it say under the 41st millennium? The Dark Millennium, here we go. So do we have... Oh, so the actual, like, just basic background is at the end. Okay. It's all change. It's all change. It's quite a significant bit about... Okay, I mean that's it. That is it in terms of the mention of everybody else. Cool. Do you like 40k? Okay. We're holding judgment on that. I've just sort of given my initial thoughts anyway, as it is. The core rulebook, we're not going to read through all of that now. That will just be here for hours otherwise. We're going to have a quick look at this, though, the assembly guide. So it is a separate little book as well, which is great. We have a... Oh, scan that if you like. So we have just a separate instruction manual, which is not tied to the core story book, the Operation Imperator book, which is great. So it should mean this is just sort of very familiar for those of you who use these normal sort of paper instruction manuals. The reason I mentioned that is because in City of Ash they did put this into a proper bound book, and it became a little bit unwieldy to use. So here we have the base key. So this will, so if you need to figure out what the size of your base is, and the interesting thing here is always to check with the large bases, because it's quite often not accurate. It's sort of, so like that 90mm, absolutely fine, that's accurate. So you know that that's a 90mm base, and we also know that there's two oval bases. Now does that slot in? It does at long last. It's like so many of these keys, the oval bases, it's not quite got right. It's like kind of touched here or there. It's not touched all the way around. And so there we go. So there we go. You now know. So if you're ever curious as to what size base you've got in your hand, just come here and use that. It's got your 25, 32, 40, 50, 105mm oval and 90mm round bases all present here. Understandably, things kick off with the captain, and it gives you a little key down here to tell you which bases that you're going to use. You're going to require... Oh no, that's just the contents for everything, but it is separated up here, Space Marines. So you can see there's a cut down the middle of sprue A just there, and then you will require 1, 2, 3, 4 sprues to build the rest of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then for the orcs we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sprues. There's a lot more sprues. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Okay, a lot more sprues for the orcs by orders of magnitude of 2. So we have the captain with the relic shield. He's up first in terms of building things. What do we have in terms of options? Well, we have optional heads. 3 optional heads there, but no other options in terms of that one. The librarian also has an optional helmet, but no other options in terms of that one. The chaplain has 0 optional extras. The Ancient has an optional helmet or an optional unhelmeted head. The Intercessor Squad, so this is going to be interesting. I don't think that this, as far as I can tell, it's just one single sprue of 10, and that's what we've seen so far. I think this is a unit of 10 Intercessors. I don't think this is a unit of 2 5s, because we have Intercessor Sergeant, Intercessors, 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 Intercessors. I'm not going to keep saying intercessors over and over again. 2, 3, there you go. It's a unit of 10 intercessors right there. There are not 2 sergeants. I mean, you could probably make this into a sergeant. Probably. If your paint scheme depends on it being slightly different. For example, for the Blood Angels, the interior of the shoulder pad would be black for it to be a sergeant. So that might be relevant, but we won't know fully what the loadouts are here. I'd probably just build this as a unit of 10. Then we have the Vanguard Veteran Squad. What do we have in terms of options? We have an optional head just there, and we don't have any more on that page or on that page. The Eradicator Squad, we have an optional head for our Sergeant, and we do not have any more options there. And then for the Land Speeder, this is going to be the interesting one. Are there going to be any optional extras for our Land Speeder? there is optional heads, unhelmeted heads, that's cool. And we also have a option to swap the Onslaught Gatling cannon for a big old flamer. The flamer looks really cool, but as does the Gatling cannon. Oh, it's all changed these days. I don't think there's an option for the multi-melter. No, the multi-melter is as it is, but you can change the flamer out for the Onslaught Gatling cannon. Okay. What else do we have? Well, that's all Space Marines. Did we even see the Ancient in there? I'm now misremembering. There is Captain, Librarian, Chaplain. We must have seen the Ancient. It's just my own memory betraying me. Yes, there we go. We did see the Ancient. He's there. Okay, cool. So we'll move on to the War Boss now. Well, the Orcs. So the Orcs, we don't have any options there for the War Boss. The Banner Knob also does not have optional extras. The Big Boss does not have optional extras. The Pain Boy does not have optional extras. The Weird Boy does not have optional extras. And then the Boys. So we do have a optional thing. We've got interchangeable parts. We've got interchangeable heads across all of our boys. And then we have two different variants of the knob. By the looks of things, yeah, 1 and 2. So we have a blue track and we have a green track. If you want to do this one for your two different sets, you just skip to there. If you want to do this one, do that one there. You should have enough components because it's a duplicate sprue to do both. Boys, we have a interesting. How does this work? So we have, by the looks of things, a blue track and a green track. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 optional head. That builds one. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 head. That builds another one. I'm seeing the vision. Right, okay. Yeah, so these sections are going to be are divided into two. Okay, so this page builds either these two boys or these two boys. Makes sense because you're swapping these parts in between. Right, I get it now. Same for this page over here. And same for this page. That builds 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here. Or you can build the green track, which is this version, or you can build the pink track, which starts there. Okay, that's initially a little bit confusing. Oh, and then we've got some more blue track and green track just here. Okay, I think it kind of makes sense to me. But you can have a lot of variation then, by the looks of things. You can have completely different looking boys across all sets of your boys, which is great. That's nice. All right, so Gretchen. Oh, it's the same deal. Blue and green, blue and green. 1, 2, 1, 2. These are 1, 2 components. 1, 2 components. 1, 2, 1, 2. Fantastic. We love that. They'll go together really quickly. War track time. What do we have in terms of the optional extras here? Absolutely nothing. Big McDackerig. Do we have any optional extras here? One thing I will actually just quickly say there about the war track. It does look like we can keep the gunner separate if we need to. We'll know more once we build it in terms of how congested it is as a piece, but it looks like we can keep that separate. That's great. Big McDackerig. Do we have any optional extras here? Does not look like it. No, but it is 44 push fit components all in one place, which is quite the intense build, that one. All right, well, not a ton of variation in the box for both sides, but kind of variation where it needs to be, sort of. I would have liked to have seen some more alternate heads and some more alternative build options for the intercessors there, but who knows? I don't. I don't know where we're going with this. All right, well, I guess we're going to go in order of operations here, and we'll kick things off with the captain with Relic Shield. So kicking things off with the captain then. It's this sprue over here that we require. The boss is over there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to separate them like that. We'll come back to you a little bit later on. So here is the captain. And, well, for those of you who don't know, if this is your first time watching a sprue review, you can already immediately see the massive glaring issue with this sprue. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to come up with it whilst we talk about some other things. Now, one thing that we're going to absolutely always be on the lookout for, and it's the thing that we're going to see very often with Space Marines, is connection points in rounded areas, right? So on the backpack just here, we've got one here on this turbine and one here on that turbine as well, or vent, or whatever it is. I'm never entirely sure. So the thing about this is we need to move with the curvature of these pieces, because if we just go straight when we're trying to clean it up with our knife or mold line remover, we're going to end up kind of shearing off the nice roundedness nature of the backpack here and here. The other thing we're going to be on the lookout for is connection points on elbows, connection points on shin guards, and connection points on kneecaps as well as hip points, which is always going to be present in Space Marine kits for some reason, and it's the most annoying thing about building them. And we have got all of those things present here apart from kneecaps. So we have a connection point here on the elbow. It's an outward facing area where we don't want a connection point to be too gummed up when we accidentally take too much off with our knife or mold line remover. We've already mentioned the backpack here. This elbow escapes the dreaded fate, and it's connected here and here on 2 flat points, which is absolutely fine, no problem, easy to deal with. We've got a connection point on the peg here and on the underside of where the shoulder pad is going to go, so that's good because it means they'll be covered up. That's all nice. But then we have the shin guards, where we have a connection point right there in amongst all of that lovely detail that's on the shin there. And we also have a connection point here on the rounded dome part of the ankle joint on the shin guard. So boom and boom. The shield connected absolutely fine. Just as always, don't apply too much pressure when you're taking the extra flash off once you've clipped it off. The only reason being is that you don't want to kind of lose that edge, because the edge is always really quite nice on the shields. You just want to be careful with how much pressure you're applying. When it comes to have you spotted it yet? I'm sure you have. The heads, we're in pretty good nick here. Again, another thing we're going to be on the lookout for is connection points on the top of smooth bald heads, which we don't have here, or on the top of the helmet, on that sort of that mohawk type vent fin thing that all the Space Marine helmets have generally. We don't want connection points on there, for example. We don't have it here, but we do have it there on the brush, or on the I can't remember what that's called. It'll come back to me in a bit. The other thing we've got here is on the cloak. We have a connection point here on the edge of the cloak there, and then we have one right there in the soft folded over part, so that's an outward facing detail. We've got to be careful and move with the curvature of the piece. And then we have one here again on the shoulder, and that shoulder is separated at the half just there. Now there is a little kind of guide peg or guide slat just there for the shoulder to go onto the cloak, so that should help with gluing this thing together and making sure there isn't a gap on the shoulder. But it's always something to bear in mind. It's a lot easier when the cloak goes under the shoulder pads, because then you can hide those kind of connection points. But here we're not going to have so much luck on that in that front. Now the big obvious massive problem, which means Armageddon already loses a point, is the very first model. We have a connection point right there on the cutting edge of the sword blade, and that is unforgivable. Despise it. You have to be really, really careful and very, very gentle. There is no optional weapon here. Do not apply too much pressure with your knife or mold line remover as you're taking this off, because you will accidentally lose the structure of the sword. You want that to be nice and straight and razor sharp, and if you apply too much pressure, you'll get a little chunk taken out of it, and it'll be very irregular and it won't look nice, so be careful around there. Okay, well, overall this is not a good Space Marine sprue to kick things off. Oh, and we've lost the push fit peg for the cloak, so that's going to require some glue. You can see that, and that might mean that I know it doesn't go all the way through. So sometimes these pegs go all the way through the model, So very, very occasionally. And we might see it in this set of miniatures. It'll go all the way through the model because something's going to go on the front as well. You want to just be on the watch out for that. If you lose any of these pegs, it's okay. You can just use a little bit of plastic glue to assemble the miniature. And some of you may just clip them off anyway. But you just want to be careful that if you lose one of those and can't figure out why it's going together, it's possibly because of that. So that would explain we've got some pressure there where we've lost that. And it would also explain why it looks a little bit ratty around the edge here. And also it looks like the point of the cloak just there is a little bit scuffed as well. So my captain hasn't had a great time in transit by the looks of things. You can see it there, how it looks like it's been pressed into other things, and there's a scuff mark on it from something or other. Alright, well, it's not a great sprue. It's not a brilliant start. Hopefully it gets better from here. We'll see how long it takes to build this. Oh, and for one last thing we haven't mentioned, actually, the feet, if you're wondering where they are on the tactical rock, just there. These are not separate feet. So if you have intentions of converting him, you'll need to find some feet. One down, many more to go. Captain is now built, so pop him off to one side. So the instructions next tell us to go to the librarian. But in order to build the librarian, we require a sprue, which has the librarian, and the Vanguard veterans on it. So we might as well sprue review both units at once, and then build both units at once. So here it is. Here is said sprue. So we're on the hunt for librarian bits, basically, but we're going to sort of look at this through the lens of just normal space marining, right? So the first thing we're going to check is all of the swords. So this one is fine. This one is not fine. This one is fine because that's connected in the parchment there. This one is on the crossguards. That's fine. This one is fine. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 swords. So 4 out of 5 ain't bad. Because we have that one connection point there on the cutting edge of the sword blade. Now, as we talked about the captain, the thing we're going to be looking out for is connection points on the front of legs / knees and stuff, and we've got one right here on the top of a foot for some reason. Not entirely sure why it's orientated like that on the sprue. And then also we have like connection points on elbows. So there's an elbow connection, and there's an elbow connection. There is not one there, and yep, okay. The other thing which we didn't see with the captain was with Space Marines again is another thing that you want to be on the lookout for is when you have connection points on the trim of shoulders, like this one up here. The problem with that is that it's very easy again to just lose the detail by applying too much pressure with your knife or mold line remover. So you want to be really careful because that looks like a sergeant's piece to me, and we want to be, well, we want our sergeant to look very impressive. So that's one thing to bear in mind. The other thing as well, of course, is hip plates, which is another thing we've mentioned. And then here we have a connection point right there on a hip plate. So all of the offences, shall we say, are present here on the sprue. We have a piece of librarian over here by the looks of things. That looks like another piece of librarian again, connection point on the trim, although because it's a sort of fancier shoulder, it's not as bad as when it is on this kind of shallower trim, but nonetheless it's something to watch out for. And we have a connection point there on the elbow of the librarian. The cloak of the librarian is in a single piece, which is really cool, but we do have a connection point right there on the sort of outward facing part of the cloak, just to his left hand side. So again, just want to be careful, move with the curvature of the piece, and make sure you get it nice and smooth with your knife or mold line remover. We've got the other half of the librarian basically just over here. I mean, the librarian is the really cool model here, and we're connected once on the flat of the book, so it's trying to be on a hip plate, but it's failing there. And then we're once here on the inside of the tabard, and then once here on the underside of the foot. So the back of this leg here escapes the fate that we do not like to see. But do we have any indicator as to where the the shin guards are for this particular individual. Should be just one. Maybe it's... No, that's a jump pack one. We will find it eventually, I am sure. Because we're looking to see... Ah, over here. Oh yeah, look at that. 2 connection points. 1 and 2 on the sides of the shin guard. And then one right there inside the thigh as well, which is a bit disappointing. I mean, that one should be covered by the tabard, but still, you want to make sure you smooth that off, because if you don't, you'll end up with a situation where it might not actually sit flat when you try and push these together. This should be the librarian's jump pack as well, and we've got connection points 1 and 2 in amongst the turbines once again, and this time we've got some runes and stuff around there, so there's even higher chance of potentially losing some detail there. It doesn't look like you will, but there's a possibility, so just be careful with your knife or mold line remover as always. The 2 heads for the librarian are over here, 53 and 52 as well, and they are connected on the receiver pegs. But as you can see, right next to it we have a helmet for a Vanguard veteran there, and we have one over here, and we have one over here, and we have one over here, and we have, that should be 5 at least. There's one. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now only one helmet does not have a connection point on the top of the helmet. So the swords 4 out of 5 are good, the helmets 4 out of 5 are bad. So there we go. Alright, the Space Marines are not covering themselves in glory at the moment. Let's hope things get a little bit better for them. So what we're going to do is we're going to build the librarian, then we'll build the Vanguard veterans. We'll do it 2 in a row, and we'll see how long each one takes to do rather than how long each the sprue takes. So yeah, overall it's not looking great. Alright, so the librarian is all built. He was absolutely fine to put together. Come on, focus. There we go. Look at him. He looks absolutely amazing. It's one of my favourite models from this box for sure. I think it looks great. But the Vanguard veterans are also built. And, well, for the most part they are pretty fine. But one of the biggest issues that they have is that we have a connection point pretty much on all of the top of these legs, on at least one of the legs that they have, so sort of down here. And it just means that whilst I've done a pretty good okay job on that one, it does mean that it becomes a little bit stressful trying to get it smooth on all of our models. So that's, and it's always quite congested as well. So something to bear in mind there on the legs for the Vanguard veterans, as well as all the other stuff that we sort of talked about. However, the next place to go is, according to the instruction manual, the Chaplain with Jump Pack, and the Ancient are the next 2 characters on Sprue. And, well, on the Sprue, they also share the Sprue with the Eradicators with Heavy Bolters. So all 3 of these are coming up next. So we're going to Sprue review these 3. And then we will build all 3 in sequence as well. So here we go. Here is the Sprue. Now we could snap this off, but we can't just sort of review this one Sprue just for the sake of the Chaplain, because as you can see, it's not got just the Chaplain on it. It's got the Ancient on it, and the banner's not here as well. So it's very kind of interconnected. So anyway, we will look at this tiny Sprue first. And, well, first couple of things that we're going to look at are going to be the things that I'm now worried about when it comes to the Vanguard veterans. So on this leg over here, we don't have a connection point on that top part of the foot, which is great. This is connected here on the receiver peg and over here on the smoke. This one's less great because it being on the smoke means that we've got to be really careful in terms of getting that nice and smooth, because you want it to sort of be pillowy soft as it billows across the battlefield. So you just want to be careful, again, move with the curvature of the piece. We have a backpack here, and it's, as always, connected once, twice, 3 times. Very, very similar, so we already talked about that across the other Space Marines. The bodies and stuff are in generally good nick. We do have a connection point here that is just on the actual outward facing part of the trim. It's sort of crossing the plane there, so we want to be very careful that we get that nice and angular and sharp. This shoulder is okay because it's connected just once there on the other side, but this one is connected once on the top, so again, be careful, move with the curvature, but the one on the underside should be fine. You still need to move with the curvature along that flat edge of it, just, you know, being careful, but at least that's just about okay over on that underside just there, because it's quite a thick one there, so the instinct is to apply a lot of pressure, but don't do that. We have the Eradicator Sergeant's head here and the bear head as well, connected just once, twice on the underside of the neck. Perfect, no problems there whatsoever. And the bear head over here, which I'm assuming is for the for the Ancient, that is connected just once there on the peg as well, which is great. We have another leg, a couple of legs over here. We're connected on the tactical rock here, tactical rock there, tactical rock here, and then we're connected on the top of the shin guard for some reason. And this one is on the inside of the shin guard. This one's fine, but this one's a little bit tricky again. Be gentle when you're smoothing it down. We have one of the jump pack chaplain's legs here with a connection point right on the front of that knee. That again, smooth detail, just be really careful with it, don't apply too much pressure. And we have, what else here? Oh, we do actually have the chaplain's helmet as well. We're connected on the peg down here, which is fine, but then we're connected once and twice on the sort of venting pipes. It is on the smooth pipe part of the pipe where the pipe goes into the sort of the little cap thing that goes over the top of it, so they're just about okay. They're not in the sort of ridged areas of those pipes, but it's still worth being careful because we do have quite a congested section around there. So that is basically sprue number 1. It's not bad. It's not bad. We do have on the Ancient's bolt gun, though, we do have a connection point 1 and 2 on the leather strap. You don't often see 2 on a leather strap like that. It's usually just the 1. And we do have a connection point there on an elbow as well. Yeah, so all the things are present here once again. Alright, let's have a look at the other sprue, the bigger sprue. Here it is. So our librarian, we've already done him. Our Ancient's banner is over here. We're connected not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5, 6 times on the flag. So these ones here, 1 and 2, they are along the kind of the hem of the flag. That's okay. And this one is actually just along the hem of the flag too. And these ones are on the ends of the kind of banner pole, and same for down here. Now, usually the one down at the bottom is okay because it's going to be driven into the ground in some way, shape or form, so it doesn't matter if you take too much off. But this one is kind of pointing this bit right at you. This kind of posing of this banner, so you do just want to be careful and make sure you get that, because that's an easy thing to forget. The Crozius over here is separate, so it's only got that sort of connection point there on the wrist where it goes into the arm. But then we have 1, 2, and 3, so it's 4 whole connection points on that one weapon. And then over here on this chaplain's pistol, we have a connection point on the elbow, as always, and then 2 on the gun as well. So it's a little bit heavy in terms of the amount of connections that we've got. And then we've got the Eradicator backpacks, 1 and 2 over here. There should be a third somewhere, but I'm not spotting it just yet. 1 and 2, unless the other one... No, the other one was surely for the Ancient. Number 4 over here. Connected 1, 2, 3, 4 in still the same places that you will be coming to expect as you're building your set here. On the turbines over here and here, then on the underside there, and then we now have an extra one on top of the little kind of servo sight. And it's the same for all 3 of these, 1, 2, and 3. And then we've got similar points of contact across, well, the other things within the Eradicator's kits. The heavy bolters I will give kudos here because the heavy bolters themselves, they are not in two halves on the barrel. That's really, really good. Normally, kind of either like the barrel is separate or the sort of the blast shield is separate, and you have to sort of do some assembly there, and then you run the risk of having that sort of gap going down the barrel itself. We don't have that present here, which is really good. That's exceptional. I like that a lot. That's really, really nice little kind of point of making things easier to build. We do, however, have one of the helmets over here where we're connected right there on the top of the crest again. So that's a bit disappointing. As for the legs, we're actually in pretty decent shape here as well. On the underside of the boot there, for example, there on that bit of sort of that pouch just there, and then twice here and here on the receiver pegs. Same sort of thing goes over here and then here, but then we do have a connection point there on the thigh. This one is better, is like this one, it's much nicer. This one is again very similar to these two over here. This one is also just like this, so we only kind of really have that problem there with that one, with the connection point on that outward facing detail. And as for like the chaplain's body, actually that's the chaplain's body, we have a second connection point there just on the wrist. So at least it's not on the elbow this time, but it's coming very close to being on the elbow. I will say though that on these heavy bolters we do have a connection point on the elbow and then a connection point on the elbow as well. And then there's a pistol over here where we don't have a connection point on the elbow, so that's great. We're probably just about one that has escaped that fate. Oh no, there's another one there that's also escaped that fate. That's good. And this one has also. So the Eradicators are looking like some of the slightly better. No, okay, there is hope for this box yet. Well, it took a little while, but this is looking pretty good. All right, let's see how long it takes to build the Chaplain, the Ancient, and the Eradicators. That's a lot all at once. Another big sprue down, another big sprue to go. The next sprue we are going to look at is going to be the Intercessors sprue. Now here it is. This is it. This is all the Intercessors you could ever want and need. Kind of. This is all the Intercessors from the box. All 10 of them are here. And I had a little read through the instructions, and we average 8 components per model. It's actually 8 components for 9 of them, and I think for one of them it's 9. But I've only found the number 80 on here. So, yeah, it's... Well, what can we say about this Intercessor sprue? Well, one of the things that is frustrating about building current multi-part Intercessors is that so much of it is very, very separate. So, for example, on the legs, for example, the kind of the greaves, the sort of shin pads, are all separate on all of the legs, on all of the Intercessors as they are currently. On here, that is not the case. So some of them have got it built in, like this one right here. Others have got it separate. So in some regards, it kind of does alleviate some of the frustrations about building multi-part Intercessors. However, there are others that then come up because this is a push-fit kit, and these are 10 individual guys. There's no repeat going on here. It's just 10 individual Space Marines, all on one sprue. So ultimately, we're going to be building an order, and I think the crucial thing is going to be whether the components are clustered in the right way. And it looks like initially they sort of are. So we have component 1 over here, and then there's 4, and there's 5, and there's 3, and there's 2, and there's 7, and there's 6. So if all the components are clustered that way, this should be a very easy sprue to navigate. And it does kind of feel a bit like a wall of stuff, because if it's the case that, for example, the chainsaw for the sergeant is over here, but the body is over here, that actually makes this really kind of irritating sprue, because one of the good things about the intercessors that are a multi-part kit currently is that they are clustered in that way. The bodies are sort of, the body is here, the body is there, the body is round, its little legs, not meant for distance. So in some regards, if this is going to be the same thing, like it's going to be kind of be clustered like this, that's really, really promising for this. Now, in terms of like the issues that may or may not crop up in here, well, we've kind of already discussed them for most of the Space Marines so far, and they are indeed all present. We have connection points on elbows here. We have connection points on backpacks there on the turbines, 1 and 2. I'm sure if we've got some hip plates, there will be connection points on those hip plates. I can see one hip plate here where it doesn't have it, and there's one here where it actually doesn't have it there either. So maybe we escape that fate. Who knows? We will have to find out as we build them. And I can't really spot any of those actually as I'm going through. But like I said, this does feel like a wall of components. Now, the other thing we're going to be looking for, of course, is connection points on the shin guards, and we've already touched on this one over here. We do have one right there on the outward facing area of the shin guard, and if we've got it not over here, we've got not over here, not over there, we're not over here. This one is fine. We don't have connection points on top of the feet again like the Vanguard veterans. That's looking good. And then of course, I'm sure some of them will have it. the backpacks all seem to be attached the same way. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. We need another one. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And I'm sure, yeah, 1, 2, and 3, and so on and so forth. Now, the other thing we're looking out for here, because there aren't any swords, so we're not looking for connection points on cutting edges of blades. What we are looking out for here is going to be the heads. Now, this right here, this kind of thing, is even more annoying than it being on that top fin, because that is a rounded detail, because at least the top sort of mohawk fin thing, at least it's flat. Having it there on the side of the head, that's really bad. And same over here on this this head just here, the bare head. There's no options as well. Let's just bear that in mind. But this head here for the sergeant, we've got a connection point right there on the top of his head in the flesh. So that's not great. So in many ways, this is a really exciting sprue. I think it's really cool, but the heads are going to be the thing that lets it down, and that is a focal point of the miniatures. So, yeah, interesting one. This we do actually have one knife up here where we don't have a connection point on the cutting edge of that blade, so that's good. And as you can see, like we talked about it with the ancient, you got the straps here on the bolt guns. There's no connection point on that. Or on that one, or on, there's another one I saw, this one, or on this one. Nice smooth leather. It's what we like to see. Okay, well, this is going to be interesting. It really is. Like I said, I think the heads is the weakness here, and the backpacks, but the backpacks you kind of come to expect. So is it a weakness? Who knows? I do find it irritating when they have the connection points on these sots, these rounded domes. But if you don't mind that, then it's not a problem for you. But for me, I dislike it. Either way, I think the heads are the issue here. But we shall see. Let's go and build some intercessors. There we have it. Our intercessors are now all built, and well, the sprue, actually navigating the sprue is pretty easy. So in that regard, when we were talking about it earlier, it's really good for that. There are a couple of like extreme sins going on here with like connection points in the middle of shoulders, for example, and all the other things that we've talked about. Ultimately though, 8 components per model. I miscounted, there wasn't one with 9, they were all 8. They go together reasonably quickly. It's just, there is a degree of navigation that is much better, but then the cleanup is much worse on balance. But seeing them in person and having them together, there is a huge step up between this and Dark Imperium. And that is the closest thing to compare them to, because Intercessors first appeared in Dark Imperium. So these guys are orders of magnitude better than those ones all those years ago. Anyway, let's pop these to one side, because we've got one last Space Marine to look at. Or rather, Space Marine kit, as we should call it. And that is, of course, the Land Speeder. Here it is. Now, this should be one of the easiest sprues to review, because it's a vehicle sprue, and it's a push-fit vehicle sprue, so it should be even easier to deal with. Now, there are a couple of things to just point out about the model before we get to it. The weapons, as an example, the multi-melter is in 3 pieces. So we have this component, this component, and this component. It is in 3 pieces, which means therefore that we're probably going to run into the situation where you may have some sort of slightly unsightly gaps in some places. I'm actually just missing there it is up there. So the other half of this barrel here, for example, so there's a possibility of having a gap going down the middle. So for example, that might be one of those rare times during this review and during this set of Space Marines where you where you might need to use glue. So that in and of itself, I would say that is a plus side of all of these Space Marines so far. There is really annoying cleanup all over the place, but we haven't had to use glue. The only time I've had to use it was once on the captain, and that was only because we lost the peg. So that's just one thing to bear in mind. But if we build out the Gatling cannon, that is yes, the Gatling cannon also is split down the middle, as is the flamer as well. So the guns, they are going to be split down the middle, so you may have an unsightly gap going down the middle. So that's one thing we need to bear in mind for all of the guns. However, as you can see from this sprue, a lot of these components are just big pieces of plastic, and that's really encouraging. So, for example, there's the main body of the Land Speeder, there's the sort of front of the Land Speeder, the sides, the chairs, and so on and so forth. Really, the kind of the most intense part of the cleanup is probably going to be on the crew themselves, which is, that's pretty cool. Not even on their legs, because their legs are attached here to the sort of main part of the cockpit, so they're just built in. So we're not going to be able to kind of do our crew separately, other than their torsos. But that depends on how that kind of they assemble into this, for example. But I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a nice thing. That for me anyway. So in that regard, the subassembly might not be there for those of you who love to subassemble. It's just something that's worth bearing in mind. What else do we have? Well, yeah, there's not really a huge amount to report here. We do have on one of the crew members, in fact this is just one of the crew members, because they all have alternate heads. You can have a helmetless or helmeted option. Over here we do have a connection point on the top of the helmet again, so that's a bit of a no-no, but we don't have things like connection points on the shoulders. We don't have to worry about the legs or hip plates or anything like that. The torsos, we're connected sort of in places where it's going to be hidden by arms and such, so that's pretty good. The only thing that question I have here is whether these are going to be key locked properly, so that they, the lining up of things is going to be easy, or whether it's going to be tough. That is just a question mark that we'll have until we actually start putting the pieces together. But all the other pieces, the cleanup should be fairly easy, because it is a vehicle sprue, and because it's a vehicle sprue, it means we just, in that orientation of all the pieces, we just look around it like this. So any mold lines and any excess sprue that shouldn't be there should be easy to catch. So, for example, like over here, like there, and there, if we're just turning it on that side, we're going to spot all of it. So in that regard, that's, you know, that's pretty cool. There doesn't seem to be too much that's like crossing the plane too much in terms of the plane of the sprue. So there shouldn't be mold lines in weird places. That being said, you can never fully predict it. So just be on the lookout for slightly strange ones. It might be, for example, that there would be like a mold line going across here on this ridge rather than along the edge, you know, because it might just be crossing the plane in that way. But otherwise, look, I mean, it seems fairly self-explanatory, this one, and maybe this is actually the best of the Space Marine sprues. It's going to take a little bit longer naturally because there is a total of 43 components here, having just checked the amount in the instruction manual. We're not going to be using all 43. For example, there's going to be 2 separate heads, and we're only using one underside gun and the multi-melter. So if you don't use the incinerator, you're not using 2 components. You're not using 2 components for the 2 heads. So that's 4 components already. So we're really looking at a build of about 39 rather than 43, but it's still worth bearing in mind. All right, it's time. Let's jump in. Let's build the land speeder, and then it's time for something slightly more green. And there we have it, the Space Marine half, all 23 miniatures of the Space Marine side, all built. Now, we're going to pop these to one side, and then we're going to whisk them away to be primed. And, well, there might be some variations in the priming, because for those of you who don't know, and, well, hopefully we'll have some stuff to reveal at the end of the video, but we're not going to be doing all of these as Blood Angels. This is going to be more of a sort of collaboration effort for these Space Marines. But more on that later. So I'm going to pop all these to one side because our next port of call is to build the more numerous of the models in the box, because we have 38 of them coming up. So it's 23 Space Marines and 38 orcs. Yes, 20 boys, 10 Gretchen, the Pain Boy with his Grot Orderly, the Weird Boy, the Boss, the Banner Boy, the Big Boss, the Kill Rig, and the other one. What's it called? The War Track. Yes. So the first sprue to look at for the orcs is the War Boss. Here it is. It's the other half of the Captain sprue. So we snapped this off earlier rather than review it earlier, because otherwise we really would have gone rogue with the instructions. So this is what we've got to deal with for the War Boss, and it's, well, everything here is significantly more chunky. And actually, I think that's going to make it a little bit more fun to build than the Space Marines, to be honest. But there are some things that we're going to have to worry about when it comes to building these. So we can already see some of it is present here, and these are going to be thematic throughout all of these orcs, I am sure. So the things we're talking about are going to be connection points on smooth flesh. So we've got one right there on this tricep. We've got one here on whatever that muscle is, but that's on flesh. And do we have the other arm? Yes, we have one there just on, well, it's the bit that goes alongside your bicep. Anyway, so we've got 1, 2, and 3 connection points on smooth flesh. 4 connection points on smooth flesh as well. So those are the things that we're going to be watching out for. It's much like with the connection points on the domes of the Space Marine backpacks. It's the same deal for all of the flesh. So we're going to be pointing those things out as we go along. And there's a couple of other things which are obviously the things that we look at consistently across every kit, is that whether we have connection points on the cutting edges of any blades. And it's proud to say that the War Boss does not have a connection point on the cutting edge of this blade. So already better than the Captain in that regard. But we do have a connection point here and here on the horns. So again, rounded feature that we want to move with the curvature off. But otherwise it looks pretty safe. We've got connection points on the kind of receiver pegs. We've got some here on some armor. This is on a bit of trouser legs, which is still something that we want to kind of be smooth with, but it's not as imperative as the muscles. We have connection points on things like the guns. We've got here on the big gob as well, and we've got one here on the boot, and up here on the banner. We're up here again on a horn, so again, something to look out for. But then again, we're on some smooth hard features like here, and this side of the Space Marine helmet. I'm assuming, is that a skull? It is a skull, but it is still on the hard part rather than the actual bone itself. So overall, that's the things that we're going to be warning you about as we go through this this side of the box. They're all present here. I'm sure more things will crop up, but here's hoping that the orcs don't have any connection points on cutting edges of blades. They'll immediately be better than the Space Marines if that's the case. So there we go. That's the orc big war boss. There's not a huge amount to go through with him, so it's looking pretty good. The mold line should be the same as they have been on the rest of the models, so in pretty good condition. So that is pretty cool, and we shall have to see what it's like. There's 10 components, and we'll figure out how long it takes to put this together. I think it'll be quicker because everything's bigger and a little bit more easier to handle and maneuver. So let's find out, shall we? And we are off for a second time in this video. So the big, war boss is done. So the next thing, quite helpfully, in the instruction manual is the banner knob and the big boss. And they come on this one sprue. So we don't have to jump into the orc boys just yet. So that's quite useful for us. Now, the war boss was definitely quicker than the captain. So it'll be interesting to see if these are both quicker than two of the other characters, for example. And firstly, off the rip, we're just going to sort of talk about how there's no connection points on the cutting edge of this axe, nor are there on this axe either. Perfect. Love to see it. However, we do naturally have connection points here on flesh, just there. We have it here as well on that flesh. This body entirely escapes that fate. But over here we have 1 and 2 connection points on both the arms. Then we have 1 here on this arm as well. And over here we actually avoid it on the large banner piece. And that really is a huge piece of plastic. Now this is one of those ones where I would expect to find some slightly strangely placed mold lines because of how much it kind of crosses the plane there. You can see, so you might even see something like there's a mold line going along here. I can't see one there personally, but you might see it, for example, over here on this side. You can see a little bit of a slightly kind of frayed inner there on that part of the banner, but it's just something to bear in mind when we're looking at that one over there. What else do we have? Oh, we have more connection points on flesh just over here on this one. So there we have it. This is starting to look a little bit more like there's more to this one than meets the eye. I feel like is the Pain Boy on there as well? Now I have to check. It may be that all 3 of the next 3 characters are on this one sprue. Let's just have a quick look, shall we, at the instruction manual. They are indeed. So the only character that's not on here is also the weird boy. So we've got 3 whole characters on one sprue. That's very efficient. I like that. That's very nice. All right, so what we do have is we have another connection point here on another horn, just on that piece there. Do we have, over here we're on the armor and the armor here, that's absolutely fine. Here we're on one of the guide pegs. Here we're on some bit of leather, that's all good. We're on the underside of the basing peg just there for this little squig. We have got a connection point just here in amongst the bandages, and because that's a textured detail, we do want to be careful that we don't flatten off entirely that area. So you're just going to maybe clip it a little bit further back and just sort of make sure that we're not losing any of that detail. It looks like it's the other half of an arm. You can see there because it's split down the middle, so it might be that the other half is what meets it up. So what probably is a sensible thing to do is to take this piece and whichever piece it glues into, which I think is this one just here, and just make sure Yeah, there we go. More bandages on the other side that we're kind of, if we have to, cutting extra grooves in just to keep that texture, because you don't want it to be flattened off too much, because that won't look great. We do have a Space Marine helmet just here, which hilariously has got a connection point right on the top of that fin as well, on the top of the helmet, so they can't even help it when it comes to the orcs. But otherwise, we seem to be in pretty good nick over here. We've already talked about this one. We've talked about this piece and this piece and this piece. Tactical rock is fine. We rarely look at those. We might have mentioned this connection point on this bit of flesh just here, but we might not have done so, in which case there it is. And this one is fine. This one is also fine because we're on the leather of the leg, which again, just like with the war boss, we want that to be smooth, but it's not the worst thing in the world. In actual fact, one thing that's really nice here is on this head on component 4 is we have one connection point there, and it looks like there's a second one in the hair, but there actually isn't. So it's not connected in the hair. So all of that texture should be nicely preserved when we clip it off and we start cleaning it up with our knife or mold line remover. Wow, okay, so there's 3 characters in there, so we'll film them one by one as always on the time lapse, and we'll see how long each one takes. But that is a very efficient sprue. I am a big fan of that. That's excellent. Alright, 3 characters down. We've got the banner knob, we've got the big boss, we've got the pain boy, and we got the grot orderly. Grot orderly, woof, that was a hell of an assembly. One whole piece. Love it. Right, it was very quick, very efficient. I liked that a lot. Okay, cool. So, next thing is we got the last character for the orcs. We have the weird boy, this absolutely deliciously beautiful, obscene miniature that I think is absolutely spectacular. I can't wait to paint this one. I think it's going to be fun. So here it is on the sprue. We have just 6 components. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is dreadfully efficient and lovely. But how is it on the sprue? Well, we do have some kind of issues, a little bit like we had with Space Marines effectively, and of course we have the ones that are orcish in nature. So we have 1 and 2 components, connection points I should say, in his flesh. 1 and 2. There you go, right on the shoulders. They should be covered reasonably well by all of this stuff that's going on, or at least distracted from, but as always, just go with the curvature of the piece and just be very careful in terms of how much pressure you're applying with your knife or mold line remover. We have the tactical rock, of course, which our weird boy is based upon. It's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 components, connection points. I've built a lot of models today. So yeah, I mean, this is fine. We have the body of the weird boy. Now here's the kind of the slight sort of pain point, which is this connection point here on the top of the knee. Now it is on the cloth, but that is an outward facing, front facing area, so you're going to be really careful there in terms of how much you're taking off, and again just move with the curvature of the piece. Here we're just about okay because it's going to be downward facing, but it is almost right up against the hem of the robe, so that's okay. And then we have a connection point on the peg up there. Over here, similar deal, right on top of the cloak just there, but this one and this one are fine. So this one again, just be careful with how much you take off. And then we have some slightly congested areas over here on this component over here. One just in there in terms of the staff. We just want to be careful there that we don't accidentally take off this spar or this spar. Just be very careful when you're using your clippers don't clip whilst tired. Finally, we have the head, where we're connected once on the underside of the chin, and it is actually on the flesh, so it does count towards the sort of the flesh connection point counter, as it were. But this one here is on like kind of one of these sort of pluggy bits. It's a bit of sort of metal, so this one's just about okay. It's not actually on the top of the weird boy's head, but this one, it is on the underside of the chin, so it's not entirely noticeable, but it is one of those ones where you just want to be careful with how much pressure you're applying so as not to just flatten off the chin. Makes sense. The last component is this one over here, the big complicated one, where we're just going to have to be very careful that we don't miss any of these connection points once we've clipped it off. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in total. These two will be absolutely fine. This one will be fine. This one will just about be fine, but it is on a rounded area. And this one here is a smooth area. It's a smooth cable, so again, just be careful with that. Probably move across it in this orientation rather than going up and down it, just because you want to move with the curvature of that piece. There we go. A nice, efficient, very, very nice sprue. Only 6 components. It's probably the craziest model that's in the box, but the fact that it's only 6 components is extremely impressive. So that's really cool. Let's check out how long it takes to build. With our orcish characters all built, it is now time to move on to the, well, this is probably going to take the longest part of the build for Armageddon. Yes, we have the Orc Boys and Gretchen all on one sprue. Well, no, there's 2 sprues. Here they are. And they are identical sprues. So that makes the sprue review portion of this video pretty easy to do. There you go, you can see exactly the same sprue twice. And each sprue, I am assuming, builds 10 boys, well, 9 boys, 1 knob, and 5 Gretchen. Because there's 20, well, there's 18, 2, and 10 in the box in total. So, here we go. Here's sprue number 1. Now, it is an absolute wall of components, just like with the intercessors, as you can see, so it just kind of does feel a little bit overwhelming at first. But what we're going to do is we're going to give a quick scan for all the things that we've talked about so far. We'll be looking for things like cutting edge connections, so we're just going to quickly start down here, I guess. We don't have one there, or there, or there, or there, or there. We don't have one there. No, 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 no. No, 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 definitely not. No, over here. We're fine. We're fine. This sprue looks all good. This half of the sprue. This one, we don't have it there. We don't have it there. And we don't have it anywhere on the sprue. There we go. That was quick. What we also don't have... No. What we also do have is the thing that we've been talking about so far with orcs. So we have lots of connection points, obviously, on the skin. And it's just is the way it is, as I kind of already sort of touched on so far throughout this portion of the video. So, for example, things like the arms, boom, 1 and 2 connection points. 1 and 2. 1, just 1 on this one. We've got 1 right there on the shoulder. 1 right there in the arm, although that one's pretty good because that one is going to be contained or covered up by whatever it is that glues on top of it. But then we have right here, we have a connection point on the skin just there, right opposite. So it is just one of those things. You're going to see it across all of the boys, and indeed you'll probably see it across all of the Gretchen. Now, as I understand it when I looked at the instructions, the Gretchen are about 2 pieces each, which is very, very exciting. The boys, on the other hand, they are slightly more intense. I think the boss knobs each had about 10 components, 9 or 10, something like that. But then the boys themselves had about 7, so they are a little quicker, theoretically, to build than the intercessors. Now, it all just depends on A, does the flow fit once again? So we've got component 1 here, component 2 there, and then that's component 9, but there are 2 variations of the knob. There's number 6, And then we're kind of surrounded by a sea of Gretchen over here. There's 4. There's 3. It looks to be that we're all in this sort of vicinity. There's 8. Interesting. But it could be that we're travelling around to get all of the components ready per model. Now, if that's the case, it's going to slow things down even further when we're building. And, well, I think, honestly, like, this one's one of those ones where you can kind of see all the areas. When you're on the smooth skin, naturally, move with the curvature. When you're on the smooth leather of their trousers, move with the curvature of the piece. However, if you have connection points on the underside of boots or in joints, or if you have connection points on the top of armor and things, it's not the end of the world. It's actually pretty easy to deal with because it's orcs. It should look a little bit disheveled. It should look a bit gnarled. That's the thing with these guys. So ultimately, it's going to be interesting, I think. Now, we do know that all of the heads are interchangeable, and we do have a couple of things to point out here. Is that most of them seem to be fine, except the occasional one, like, for example, this one here, has got 2 connection points, 1 and 2. And then one over here, same again. We've got... that might not be 1, actually. No, that is only connected the once. It looks like 2, but it is just the once. And this one's on the underside of the chin. Now, we talked about it before with the weird boy. It's fine if it's on the underside of the chin, but you still just want to be a little bit careful and don't apply too much pressure because you don't want to completely flatten off the sort of bumps of the chin. But it's fairly promising. We'll have to see. So what we'll do is we'll build the orcs, and then we'll build the Gretchen, and then we'll come back for some light vehicle fun, because this is going to take a while, I suspect. So because units of Gretchen come in 10s, not 5s, I was only initially going to build one of the sprues because it's really hot and I wanted to get on with the rest of the sprue review. However, we've ended up building all 20 boys and all 10 Gretchen. And, well, mistakes were made. I will suffer for this when I can't sleep later on. Anyway, the one thing I will say about this is that building the Gretchen is a really lovely breath of fresh air after the boys. Now, when it comes to building the boys, it's generally like it goes from being sort of like 9-10 pieces for the boss knob, and then like 7 pieces for the next 2, and then it goes right down to like 4 pieces, and then it leaps back up, and then it goes back down again. So it fluctuates in terms of what the amount of components that you require to build the boys. However, a number of them are going to seriously do a number on your fingers doing the push fit thing, because a lot of what happens with these guys is you put the arm in. So for example, on this type of thing here, right, is you put the arm into the back, and then you put the chest on around the corner and in to the model, and it is really, really tough to do. It's not all of them, but some of them are extremely infuriating. So it's a sort of a mixed bag here for the boys. A little bit of a mixed bag. It's generally okay, but genuinely some of it is just really quite tough. Anyway, boys debrief over. We've got 2 more models left to do. And the next thing on the agenda, after doing all of the boys, is the war track. So, let's pull that one up, shall we? Here it is. Comes on these 3 small sprues. So you could separate these out, but we don't really need to because, well, it's just one single model. And we are also going to require one of these bases to do it. I believe it's that one. I can't remember, though. I've put the instructions down somewhere and I can't find them. Anyway, this is the war track. Now, as we always talk about with vehicle sprues are very easy to sprue review because it's all in the 2D plane, right? So really the thing you're going to be looking out for is stuff like with tyres. Are they going to be in two halves? Well, yes, this one is. So there's a potential for a big gap across the middle of the tyre, so that's something to watch out for. The other thing that we look out for is mould lines on things like tyres and treads and stuff like that, and these seem to be in pretty good condition, so that's not really going to be too much of a concern for us here with this one. And the other thing we look out for is the crew, and well, the same things that we've talked about with all of the orcs are all present here. Connection point on the skin here and over here and here as well. So you know, it's just one of those things, as we keep saying, but it's always worth pointing out. Those are the bits you just need to be careful on. Otherwise, we're in pretty good nick. I mean, here we're on side of that sort of teeth trinket just there at the bottom of the chain, and we're here on the jacket just there, and here on the armpit where it's going to be covered up by something that goes in there, presumably that just there. And this body is okay as well, because we're on the underside of the boot, and we are on the leather trousers, and we're on the receiver peg as well. So generally just about okay. Yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't look like there's a huge amount of components here. It's a nicely spaced out sprue. It should be quite easy to navigate because, well, we're only building one, but also everything does have room to breathe on these sprues. You can see why they've done it this way in these 3 small sprues, because it does, like I said, it has room to breathe. Every component is easily spottable from a distance, which is really, really nice, actually. The same can't be said of the last one, the Dakar rig, but this one's looking pretty good. Otherwise, as always with a vehicle sprue, just in that orientation, move them around and round, count how many connection points you have before you clip it off, and then you'll know how many gates to look for when you deal with it. So let's see how long it takes to build a war track, and then we've got one more vehicle left to go. The war track goes in the done pile, which means there's one thing left to do, and it's all on one sprue, a big old sprue, and it's another vehicle sprue. So in terms of sprue reviewing, it should be pretty simple. The big mech Dakar rig, here it is, and well, it's about 44 components, something like that. I'm running out of space on this desk. So here it is. I mean, look, this is a lot more overwhelming to look at than the war track, because it is just one big old A4 sized sprue, and they do tend to just be a little bit overwhelming, especially when you've got this many components in a short space. So the same thing goes for both the land speeder and the war track. Everything is going to be flat. Everything is going to be easy to clean up. This will all depend on whether or not we have bad mold lines, and I don't think we do. And we also don't have any tires that we have to deal with, so that's really good. So there you go. This is the sprue. So we have one of the stacks over here, or I think it might be the only stack. That is clearly 35 and 37. Those two, I think, or I suspect, go together in some form of fashion, and they are split right down the middle. So one thing to bear in mind there is that we might have a big old gap between these two components, so just be careful, or use a little bit of glue if you have to. Other things that we might want to look out for, of course, is the flesh, and well, 1 and 2 we are connected on the triceps 1 and 2. The body here is fine. That's connected. Oh no, it's not. It's on the flesh on the top of his back. So there you go. And the big mech's mouth or head. There's a whole head, not just the mouth. We're connected once there on the underside of the chin. So very familiar to what we've done so far with the orcs. That's good. I like that. We have the other part of the body here, and that looks to be another connection point on some skin, maybe just here on the side. This one's on the pauldron, so that's fine, and here's the underside where it's going to be covered up, where it pushes into the model. And yeah, we have separate boots, 1 and 2. So they're actually moulded into the models and they're not moulded into the legs. That's one thing to point out as well. Just in case you want to sub-assemble this, bear in mind that the boots are on the model rather than on the big mech itself. And yeah, I mean, there you go. It's a vehicle sprue. There's not a huge amount to actually talk about here. There's no options. There's no optional extras. We just, as always, in the 2D plane, cycle our components and make sure that we've got all of the extra gates and stuff off. So yeah, pretty simple by the looks of things. Just a little bit bewildering because there's 40 plus components here. And another thing to just point out, because hey, we're clutching here. It's because it's a perfectly fine sprue. It's a perfectly fine vehicle sprue. We do just want to be careful around the missile tips over here, 1 and 2, just because we want to keep those nice and smooth and rounded. Oh, we've got a third one there as well. Actually, the third one's just there. So yeah, we just want to bear that in mind as we're building. But otherwise, yeah, look, it's pretty simple. It's almost like reviewing terrain. There's not a huge amount to write home about because everything's just around the outside. So yeah, otherwise I think we're good to go on our final model of Armageddon. So let's see how long this one takes. So there you have it, all 61 models all built. Now, here's the other part that's going to be a letdown for you guys, but also quite exciting, I am sure. So, what have I painted? Well, not very much. And I'm not going to show you what I have done. I've done 2 of the models. Because of all of the stuff I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I've been ill, I've been hot, and then I've been ill. All of that, it just means that I haven't got a lot of stuff ready for today. But that's okay, because well, it's not on pre-order yet. It goes on pre-order this Saturday. So, do you really need to see the painted models now? No. But you will see them very soon, because that's what I'm going to be working on throughout the whole of the week. And that's where you come in. On the Space Marine side of things, we're not doing them all as Blood Angels. We're just not. We don't need to. We've got so many Blood Angels videos here on the channel. We're still doing 2. But we've got so many Blood Angels videos on the channel, it just doesn't need to happen, right? So, what we're doing is we're doing 4 different chapters. We are doing the Chaplain and the Vanguard Veterans as Blood Angels. We are doing the Librarian and the Landspeeder as White Scars. We are doing the Ancient and the Eradicators as Salamanders. And we're doing the Captain and the Intercessors as Crimson Fists. Yes, because I think for me to kind of carve out my enjoyment of 40k, the thing that I want to do for myself, not because the game tells me to do it a certain way and not because the meta is telling us to go a certain way. If we're going to be Armageddoning, let's do Armageddon, but let's do Armageddon as a sort of joint ops Space Marine task force. So something I would like to do over the coming weeks and months, depending on what comes for the multi-part release for the Space Marines, is to just create a sort of Armageddon task force type army out of those 4 chapters. And obviously we have some reinforcements elsewhere from the Ultramarines. We can do some more Black Templars and all this, but to have a really nice kind of eclectic mix of Armageddon Space Marines, that's going to make me really happy, and that's going to be something that I will enjoy doing for myself, and of course for all of you guys, because we document everything around here. But of course it's not just all about the Space Marines, it is of course about Orcs as well, and we have lots of different options over there as well. So with the release of Wazdaka Gutsmech, made my dreams possible of having a full Evil Sons, all bike, all mounted, all fast, dead fast Orc army possible. And within this box we do have a couple of options with which to add to that force. But I don't want to do all of it as Evil Sons because, well, as funny as it would be to paint the Space Marine half that's meant to be red a bunch of different colours, but paint the green half that's meant to be black and do it all as red, doesn't seem... It's funny, but we're not going to do that. And I know a bunch of you guys will be looking forward to some Orcs tutorials in various different colours, not that a lot changes. So My point about all of this is that for the orcs, we are also going to do the same thing. We're going to do a couple of units as Evil Sons, namely the War Track and the Daka Rig. We're going to be doing some Bad Moons, we're going to be doing some Death Skulls, and we're going to be doing some Goths, and I'm sure there was another one. Maybe it was just Evil Sons. Was it 4? I think it was 4. Can't remember now. Death Skulls, Goths, Bad Moons, and Evil Sons. Yes, that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be kind of trying to cover more bases than perhaps we normally would with a box like this, than we have done in the past. But not kind of doing one boy of each. It's just going to be like, here's a whole unit of Death Skulls and a character as Death Skulls, that kind of thing. Haven't fully figured out which ones are going to be which, but that is what we're doing. That is the plan. I hope you are excited, and you will see all of this painting content dropping very, very soon. Painting stuff aside, the sprues. Let's talk about the box. Well, ultimately, let's start with the orcs. The orcs half, despite the things that we talked about in the video that we've just sort of looked at, the sort of connection points on flesh and things like that, overall, the orcs half is probably better than the Space Marines half in terms of the quality of the build and the quality of the sprues themselves and the connection points and all that stuff. I think one of the pain points around the boys was, well, the boys. Some of the kind of orders of operation in terms of building the push fit is a little bit difficult, I think, because of the angles of the dangles, if you see what I mean. A lot of the times you're taking the back of an orc body, you're pressing the arm in, and if the weapon is kind of going across the body, sort of, you know, like this sort of thing, you know, then it means that you're pressing the front of the torso behind the arm, which is a really difficult angle at which to do things. So in that regard, like, it's not all the boys, but for a number of the boys, it is a slight pain point. So that's one kind of like challenge, I would say, with the orcs half of things. Otherwise, it generally goes together pretty well. I think the war track is a little bit tough to push together in some regards. Like, you build it into two halves. You've got the front part and you've got the back half, and when you push that together, it's a little bit like, it feels like you might snap it, and there's a possibility you might, because it's not the sturdiest of things, but it's generally an okay kit. And the same thing kind of goes for the Daka rig at the final hurdle of putting the sort of missiles and things. Again, it just feels flimsy, so just be careful with it. So in that regard, the orcs half, it has some challenges, of course it does, but the traditional things that we look out for, like the connection points on cutting edges of blades, are not present there at all. So that's a big win for the orcs. The cleanup's generally fine as well, and we didn't have to do much gluing for them. I think there was one or two, but it's been about a week now, so it's been a while since I can remember. But generally, like, one thing I would say about this box in general, having to bust out the glue because things don't go together properly, it happens very infrequently. So the orcs half is a slightly better build experience. I think one of my favourite things about it is once you've done 10 boys, you treat yourself to 5 Gretchen at the end on the sprue, which is nice, because it's just like throwing up the last 5 models in like 10 minutes or whatever it is. Like less time than that even, probably, because there's only like 2 components. So that's really good, and I really enjoyed that. It's like just a lovely little treat at the end of doing a big sort of section of slightly more tough models to put together in the context of the rest of the orcs. Now we come to the Space Marines. Oh dear. Yeah, there are a lot more challenges with the Space Marines than there have been historically. I think the Vanguard veterans, for example, just, it's really tough to put your finger on as to why some of the choices have been made the way they have been in terms of the way those go on the sprue. I think for like even seasoned builders like myself, and guaranteed I don't love building, I'm not the greatest at it, it's a skill issue of mine, but I think just like the huge fat connection point on the top of the arch of the foot, or the bridge of the foot, I can never get those two right, but on at least one of every of the Vanguard veterans' legs is just strange to do. It's such a congested point, and it's so difficult to get your knife or mold line remover in there that the angle of the dangle is never going to be correct or 100% accurate every time, and so you end up just kind of either flattening it off or not fully getting it. It's going to be a bit bobbled, and for kind of the centerpiece unit for this box for the Space Marines, that's a real kind of disappointment in that regard. It also has a connection point on one of the cutting edges of one of the swords, and the helmets also had connection points right on the top of the dome, and so that's like, those are just problems that I don't enjoy having to face when I'm building miniatures. The intercessors as well, being just a flat unit of 10, I do think like it could have had one of the models could have had an alternate build which would have made it a sergeant as well. I do genuinely think having 2 of 5 in here would have been ideal, and I think it throws up a lot of questions, and I'm sure my questions will be answered at some point very soon, but it makes it feel like intercessors are going to units of 10, and I don't think that is the case. I do think that when you look at the war data sheet cards in the box, it says a unit of intercessors is 9 intercessors and 1 sergeant. It does say that that's a unit of 10. It's not 2 or 5. It's not they can come and afford 4 intercessors and a sergeant, or be 9 and then a sergeant. It doesn't say that. It just says this is a 10-man unit. But it says the same thing for the boys, that they are a 10 orc unit, and we just can't see that being true. So I think they are just data sheets for the sake of playing the contents of the box. Ultimately, the intercessors did have some issues as well, of course, on the top of the helmet, for example, all that stuff as per. So yeah, the Space Marines half, it generally sort of is tougher to build than the orcs, and there's not really a lot I can add than what we sort of talked about in the actual video, but I did find it more difficult, and that was a shame because I'm the Space Marines fan. Of the 2 factions here, I do love Space Marines more so than I do love orcs, but they were more challenging for me to build, and that I think is a bit of an oversight because Space Marines are the starter faction for most people, and if this is a product that's going to go into the starter boxes, it does need to be tweaked, I think, because I think it's a more challenging build. And that's only if we compare it to previous iterations of Space Marines, and of course it's been a long time since I've built Leviathan, or Indomitus, or indeed Dark Imperium, and I don't fully remember how those went. Maybe they were more challenging, but I distinctly remember the Necrons being worse than the Space Marines, and I do remember the Leviathan Terminators? No, the Tyranids, that's the word I was looking for. The Tyranids being slightly more tricky as well, just in placement of mold lines and stuff like that. But I could be wrong. Maybe my brain is rewriting history. As for the rest of the box, well, here's the interesting thing. If I could put my non-bias hat on, or my bias hat on actually for a moment, I would say that like of the last couple of edition launch boxes like Indomitus, Leviathan, Dark Imperium, if we just compare off of those, because that's the newer stuff, from Dark Imperium all the way up to now, I do think it's the weakest box of all of them. And the reason being is that for me personally, this doesn't feel like it's a launch box. It feels like it's the sort of introduction to the next half of this edition. And I do think that like Indomitus as a box really felt like it was building on Dark Imperium because we had Blade Guard. The previous iteration, of course, Dark Imperium introduced us to the Primera Space Marines with all of the new bigger things like the Intercessors and all that stuff, and that was exciting in and of itself. But Indomitus was like, here is the sort of the beefcakes when it comes to Warhammer 40,000. This is the next iteration of how cool these Space Marines can be, and it was really, really, really exciting. I was less enthused by Leviathan, and this one had the opportunity, I think, for me to be like, Leviathan was cool, this is Armageddon. And I feel like it kind of doesn't hit that mark for me. It doesn't feel like it's a particularly exciting moment for me because it doesn't feel like a launch box for me personally. To me, it feels more like a campaign box with the updated rules in. And that's fine. I get that a core rulebook being small is really handy for playing, and it's great for people who are really excited to play this game a lot, and I'm really excited and happy for you. But I do love a big, big, thick hardback. I do. I just love it. And like, I think we talked about it in the video, and I'll know this because I'm going to edit this shortly afterwards, after this, but there is very little reference to Warhammer 40,000 in this box. This is a box about Armageddon. And that's really cool if you're into everyone that's taking part in Armageddon. But it doesn't feel to me like it launches Warhammer 40,000 from a narrative perspective. It definitely launches it from a rules perspective, But that kind of is important to you if you play the game a lot. And if you're like me and you don't play the game a lot at the moment because you didn't like the game how it was, and this is an improvement of the game of how it was, it's not going to be a great box for you. You see what I mean? And that's the difficult question, is who is this box for? And I don't think it's for me, but it is probably for you, which is why you're watching this box. So I'm really excited for you. I don't know if I'm excited for me with this. We shall have to see what the wider context of Warhammer is after this box. Because, yeah, I'm just kind of waiting. All this is to say that as of yesterday, they released a new trailer for Warhammer 40k, and it was so good because it was just introducing you to the world of Warhammer 40,000. It was such a good trailer. I would put it in this video. If you haven't already, do go and find it. It's on Warhammer Community. It's on YouTube. It's anywhere you want to find your videos. But the new trailer that they put up, which was just an advert for Warhammer 40k, was so good. And that was a real launch trailer for me. I feel like this is a really good campaign box that supports the new 10.5 or 11th edition rule set, which is a building of the 10th edition rule set. And whether or not that's something you're into, that only you can decide. I personally don't know if I like it yet. That's basically the thing. So there we have it. I don't know how to rank this box on the Land Raider scale. Honestly, I really don't. I don't know what number to give this, because if I put myself fully into it, it's my least favourite of all the edition launch boxes that we've had so far. So if we can get a couple of numbers going, I would say that this box, for me, is like a 5 out of 10. Which is a very low number. But I do think if you take me out of it, and you put somebody else in the same position making the same video who's excited for different things, they would probably see, based off of the sprues alone, that it's about an average of 7, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Because like I said, the Orc side is pretty good. The Space Marine side has its challenges. There's some really nice stuff in the box. There's some really cool stuff about the future of 40k going on. That's really exciting. So maybe we'll just split the difference and we'll give this launch box a 6.5 out of 10. But obviously ratings are meaningless because who cares? So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're excited to order your Armageddon boxes. Don't be like me. Don't be bitter and old and cynical. Be excited for things if you want to be excited for them. I must say that I'm not saying any of this to yuck anybody's yum when it comes to Warhammer 40,000. I'm excited for you guys to have a new edition, and I really want to love this edition. I'm just not there yet, but we shall see in the next few months and weeks. Thank you so much for watching. I am looking forward to seeing what you guys do with your Armageddon boxes, and do let me know if you're excited to see what I do with my Armageddon box. You'll be, of course, able to see all of that painting content coming very soon. Let me know, what would you like to see first from the Space Marines and the Orcs? You've got your options. We talked about them about 20 minutes ago. So just let me know. Down in the comments. Head to the comment section, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye! If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/Warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done, scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.